We're here tonight to talk about the initiative that's going to be on the ballot in November. And tonight we're going to discuss that. We've got two excellent gentlemen that are going to be here to help us understand what it's all about. The first person that I'm going to bring up is Jay Humphreys. Jay, come on up. Jay has been an elected official for Costa Mesa. He's been involved in a lot of activity, and I see him involved every board meeting, every city council meeting that there is. Jay's there and involved in what's happening. So please welcome Jay. And we have our Mayor Pro Tem, Jim Righeimer, who is here. Jim. And Jim has been mayor. He's a developer, and he's also been on the board for about 6 years now, I think. Is that correct?
The council?
Council.
Yep.
Yeah.
4 years on the planning commission.
Okay, Jim, thanks. Let's go ahead and sit down, you guys. I'm going to read some rules here that I've got. My understanding is that we've decided that we're only going to have one person videotape. Is that right, Jay and Jim? Is that what we've kind of agreed on?
No, I didn't agree to that.
Oh, okay.
And the reason being is that if one person videotapes, they have the rights to that tape and nobody else can use it. So if somebody wants to videotape, I'm fine with it.
But I think at this point, we're just going to have the one.
I don't know. I didn't agree to that. I think you can't have one person that controls the tape and you can't get copies of, and they have the copyright on it. Get it. Nobody else can use the tape. So I see 3, 4, 5 cameras. I see iPhones. I'm fine with the cameras being on.
Okay. Okay, we're going to videotape. This has been a debate for the last 48 hours. I'm glad it's over. Let's talk about some of the rules. No interruptions by either participant will be allowed during the opponent's presentation. So Jim and Jay, what we're asking is let the person finish his comment, and then you'll have plenty of time to rebuttal that. All questions will be related directly to the Smart Growth Initiative and not any other issue or platform. All questions will be asked by the MC, I guess that's me, who will be who's provided by the sponsoring organization, which is Costa Mesa Republican Assembly. There should be no questions from the audience, but if you'd like to write them down, and when they're talking, I'll be right here, and you can hand them to me. I'm good for some more questions. Answers and rebuttals will be delivered in a time allotted section below. We're going to do, actually, we're going to do 2 minutes to answer the question, 2 minutes to rebut the question, and then the person that was asked the question the first will have a minute to respond again. And we're going to go back and forth. And I didn't bring any place cards, so what I'm going to do, when you got about 30 seconds left, I'm going to hit that. When you got 15, I'm going to hit it twice. And when you're over time, I'm just going to hit it.
I think the buzzer's better than that.
We're creative around here. Okay, what else do we have here? It says here I'm supposed to ask good questions, so I hope you agree with that one. Okay, let's get started. And you guys have got one mic to share there, so Jay, why don't you go ahead and pick that up? And,
okay. And it's on.
Yeah. Can you tell us what specific triggers initiate the initiative so that where the voters are going to vote on it? What are the things that are required to take it to the voters?
Okay. It's really pretty straightforward and pretty simple. The first thing that has to happen is there has to be a change in the rules of how we build this city. That means the general plan zoning code, overlay zone, or a specific plan. So if one of those things are actually changed, giving more entitlement, more property rights, if you will, to a specific piece of property, and the second thing has to happen then to bring it to a vote, and that is add more than 40 dwelling units, add more than 10,000 square feet of commercial property, or have more than 200 additional trips to the project. So it requires two things to happen, not one, and two things are the only way it triggers.
Okay, Jim?
Well, first of all, let me give a little background kind of on this whole issue. Right up front, Jay and I both care about the city greatly, and we want the best that we can have for our city. We both live here, our families are here. And so understand that when people just disagree about how you do something doesn't mean that they have to be disagreeable, doesn't mean that we don't get along. It's just they might have a different opinion about how things should be done. So the issue here with this initiative basically says is that if you change, like you were talking about a general plan amendment, or you do something different in the city, and you create any additional trips, you're going to go to a vote of the people to see if that's fine. And for a lot of people, that just sounds like, well, gosh, that just sounds fine, until you realize what's happening in the amount of things that have to change. The city council has a planning commission. It's had a planning commission for what, 60 years now. And the planning commission are people that have been put on it who, when an issue comes forward, have to study it. So I think I saw a couple of planning commissioners here, but when you have issues that come in front of you, you're going to get a packet this thick, and you're going to spend your 10, 15 hours on that packet to go through the different issues you have before you vote on them in the city. What this initiative is saying is that we're just going to go out to the public, and it even says we're going to send out the 50 pages or make sure the hundreds of pages and make sure they have all that information so they can make a decision to the public of people that are supposed to study this issue and decide. So what really happens is it's not about traffic, it's not about planning, it's just about politics. And who can do the best campaign to decide should you vote for something or against something. Now, are people concerned about traffic and that issue? Yeah, it's been going on for, well, I mean, the first initiative you guys did in 88, I think? 88 was the first initiative that basically was different than this, but the same idea that people are concerned about traffic. That passed. By a very small margin, a couple hundred votes, I think less than a couple hundred votes. It went into litigation, the courts threw it out, but it tore the community apart. It was a very divisive issue. So the concern that I have overall, and we'll get into more of the technical concerns here, is that to put an initiative on the ballot that says to people to go out there and politically, is there something going on over there?
Yes, 2 minutes is up.
Oh, was it? You gotta be louder than that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll finish up later. I apologize.
Well,
You need a buzzer.
yeah, well, the process is pretty simple. A lot of people make a lot of comment about whether the public should have the right to kind of have in control of their own future. And that's what this initiative does. It actually looks at large projects, and it gives the public the right to pick and choose what they think are the best projects to do to live to their quality of life. The reality is that a lot of people have been saying that they do not want high-density projects here in the city, and what we're talking about in this initiative is those kind of high-density projects. So consequently, it gives the people of Costa Mesa the right to literally pick and work with their council and what have you for their quality of life and their future.
Say respond or?
No, you'll have plenty of
Okay,
time as we
okay.
go along here. I do want to stay on the triggers a little bit because I don't think the audience, at least I didn't catch the triggers, but according to the summary that the city put out, generates more than 200 additional average daily trips would be a trigger. Jim, would you like to discuss that a little bit and what you see is that?
I think first off, it's all about how you define it. So what's a major project? So a major project by this definition is 40 households, but actually 40 houses, or it's actually 20 houses. And why is that? Because every house has 10 trips. And so you break the 200 trips as soon as you do 20 units, 20 apartments, something. Even easier is 10,000 square feet of commercial. 10,000 square feet of commercial small. That's like a little Starbucks and a restaurant on a corner pad. Every one of those would have to go to a vote of the people. And the issue that I have with it, in Newport Beach, they did a issue where you go to a vote of the people, but at levels magnitudes higher than we have here. I mean, we're talking about 200 trips in a 24-hour period, 24-hour day, an additional 200 trips based on some calculations. Newport Beach, it's 100 trips in a 1-hour peak period, because that's what matters, your peak periods. So, I mean, when you get into there's more to it. It would increase the VC ratio equal to or greater than 0.04 hundredths, such that the implementation of the major change of the LOS is worth, what? I mean, who understands this stuff except for traffic engineers? And yet, these are the kind of questions that they want the public to vote on. Do I think it's good for the public to vote on it? Yes, they're called elections. You elect people to councils. They put people on planning commissions. And if they don't do well, you unelect them. But what you don't do is change the process in the city completely forever. In Newport Beach, in 2000, they put this thing on the ballot, this type of idea.
30 seconds.
And after they did that, in 16 years, not one project's ever been approved. Only one project came forward. What I'm telling you right now is if you want to get rid of the motels with the pimps and the prostitutes and all those, this initiative requires that you go ahead and go to a vote if you have any more traffic that's brought on because of those buildings.
Well, if in fact that project that he's talking about that would happen and cause those triggers, the other triggers, had a general plan change or a zoning change or what have you, that would be true. That if it would have those more housing allowed on it than what would be a trigger, 40 houses in a consideration, we would in fact have a trigger on that. But most of the properties and most things we're talking about are on the same property, on a property that does not have a zoning change, does not require a general plan change. It just simply is a reuse. Keep in mind, Costa Mesa is almost fully built out. And what that really means is that most of the stuff we're doing is now redeveloping, we're remodeling. So the kind of triggers that have to happen will happen on larger projects. Talking about 10,000 square feet, you're all aware that the largest restaurant in Costa Mesa is the Soup Plantation, and it's 9,000 square feet. So to give you an idea about what size 10,000 square feet is, it's a fairly large involvement, and it is also an additional 10,000 square feet. And it's really important to note because you could already have 40 or 50,000 square feet on a property, add 10,000 to it, add 9,999, and not trigger the initiative at all. That's an important consideration.
You got about 20 seconds.
Well,
30 seconds.
the last thing is that it's important to always keep in mind that this doesn't trigger all different projects. It only triggers those projects that count both factors, general plan change or one of the other rules and the triggers that are allocated in the PAR tests.
And it's a perfect point, so let's look at that. Is there a zone change? Let's look at our lovely motels that we have up and down Harbor and Newport Boulevard that give us thousands of calls for service for our police department and our fire department. We just actually filed, it was a 5-0 vote by the council in closed session to file a receivership for the New Harbor Motel. We're done. We're not going to send the police officers out there every time we turn around and someone says their radio's too loud or there's pimps or there's prostitutes and the drugs. We're done. We're not going to be taking care of these properties. But a perfect example, motels are not in residential areas. They're considered, they're zoned commercially. And so in order to get rid of a motel, you could tear it down and you have to keep it commercial. The reality of it is that the highest and best value for that property is that motel, even at 60, 70 bucks per unit, per night. So you can't get the property owners to do anything. So in order to change it, like we're doing with the Costa Mesa Motor Inn, is that we made an agreement with the property owner. We said, you know what, if you get rid of your motel, we'll change your zoning, which this initiative will require, change your zoning, and we will allow you, instead of having 39 motel units, you have 230 apartment units. That triggers in both cases this initiative because there's more trips. And it doesn't take many trips, remember? It took a small percentage of trips to do it, and it triggers it off by the fact that it was a zone change. every single motel that we have would trigger this. What property owner that we're pushing to get them out of the business, please get out of this business. Let's give you a carrot, a stick, whatever to get out of the business.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay, how can we do it? And the reality of it is this initiative would make it go to a vote. I am telling you right now, nobody's going to spend, no developer, nobody's going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to a vote. That's not a process that's normal for that amount.
Well,
Was that,
jeez.
that was a rebuttal?
Well, that's what, I don't know whether that's a rebuttal. That was, if that was a
apologize.
rebuttal, it was 3 minutes.
Give them extra minutes, yeah. I apologize.
Yeah,
If somebody could do just put up a sheet of paper or something, like when he does it, it'd be helpful. Just something I can see.
Do you want me to do it at the 30-second mark?
No, I think somebody needs like a sheet of paper to say 30 seconds. It's just really hard. I'm hitting the mic.
Sir, you got the yellow piece of paper. Could you do that? I'll wave
Appreciate
at
it.
you. How's that?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, it's interesting to talk about the motels and how we have to get rid of them. We're all aware, aren't we, that a new hotel over on Newport Boulevard called the Boulevard is a very successful boutique hotel. All by itself went and actually converted itself to a upscale hotel. It made that choice on its own, and it cost the city no money at all or no action or no trouble. Secondarily, when the city back in 2010 actually converted another motel to an SRO, a single-room occupancy area. Bottom line, those are two changes of two motels that now became non-problems to the city and, in fact, welcomed by the city.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. I'm kind of curious. What we have Target, we have IKEA, and we have the Triangle, and a number of projects like that. We have the project on Industrial Way, which is really done a lot for the city. Would those projects have to be voted on under your plan? Jay, why don't you take that, and then if it...
Well, first off, when those projects were all built, for the most part, they were all projects that were in open land and what have you. We only have 2%, actually less than 2% of the open land available in Costa Mesa, and very few small project lands. As far as the stuff on, I think you're talking about the housing on 15th. And if you're talking about that housing on 15th, that was under an overlay zone. So they would absolutely not have come up to a vote under this initiative. The other things are already there. They've been there. And unless you want to duplicate them someplace else in town, in a place where they don't belong, then in fact, it would come to a vote.
Okay, Jim?
Well, it's also triggers on general plan, specific plan, so it's more than that. So yes, South Coast Plaza would take a vote of the people, Metro Point would take a vote of the people, the Triangle would take a vote of the people. I mean, I can go through the list. Everything that's major changes, SoCo, right over here, would take a vote of the people. That was office building, was changed over to retail. So if every major project that happens in the city would take a vote of the people. What I'm telling you is that when people invest money to go ahead and do a project, and they're out there doing it, they're not going to go into a community that takes a vote of the people. They just go to another city. Now, if you want nothing to happen in the city, or you're really afraid of traffic and you want to kind of shut everything down, that may be fine for you. But the reality of it is, when you look at those houses that we have over there on 15th and Superior, is it the 32nd or the end of it?
That's the end of it.
That's the end of it? Okay, thank you.
Wait, I think we're confused here. Yes. The person that is asked the question gets 2 minutes. The person responding gets 2 minutes. And then the rebuttal of the second response gets 1 minute. So it's 2, 2, and 1. And
So it was two,
well,
and now I get
it
one.
was not 2. It was not. Jim only had about a minute that time.
Huh?
But
I
that's
only have a
okay.
minute.
He's done.
I have a minute.
Yeah, you have a minute.
All right. But if you look at the city as a whole, the vast majority of the projects that are being done in this city would never trigger an initiative vote, simply because they actually do not have general plan changes or what have you. Only very large projects are going to have general plan or zoning code changes that are going to trigger it. And a small zoning code that in fact has 30, 25, 15 homes or less than 10,000, somebody wants to put a restaurant in the middle of Mesa Verde, all that would not trigger a vote because it's less than the triggers.
Okay. Jim, what other cities have similar laws like this? And how has that affected the development in those cities, if you know or don't know?
I mean, the only city that's the closest to us that has this type is Newport Beach, but it's much looser. Newport Beach allows 40,000 square feet of commercial before it triggers. It also says 100 trips. This is all, lingo noise that goes crazy, but 100 trips in the peak hour. So there's an AM hour and a PM hour where the most trips are. So you really don't trigger a lot, and you can do it. Plus the fact, in very high-end areas, the real estate is so expensive that it trades. Our biggest issue is we have a lot of property that, say, especially on the west side, that has industrial waste under many, many, many. In fact, I don't think there's one housing project has been done that didn't have remedial work done on it, because when these buildings were built in the 50s and 60s and 70s, people just dumped, chemicals in the ground, and they weren't trading. They weren't able to sell them because the cleanup was so expensive. Once the overlay was put in place, which allowed a higher value for the real estate, the cleanup could go ahead and be done.
Okay. Jay, in rebutting that, I'd like you to tell us, are we going to be Newport Beach is Newport Beach, and it's a different city. Its tax base is entirely different than the other 32 cities in Orange County. Are we going to be the only one in Orange County that has this?
Well, no, we're not going to be the only ones in Orange County that has this. But the reality is that if you want an example of a city that has this similar ordinance and has worked through it, and that's Redondo Beach. And Redondo Beach, by the way, had a project that was a multi-use project, very large, and when in fact it went through the system and was subject to that vote, the council refused to put it on the ballot. And so it had to be sued by the proponents of that ordinance to put it on the ballot. They put it on the ballot, and guess what? It passed. We can trust the public to actually make decisions that are good for us if they have the information and not get it 3 days before a vote's can be taken on. If they get it early enough. And the nice thing about the initiative is it requires that the city has to put out the information in an informative, easy to understand factor so that we can in fact make that decision. And Jim talks about V/C, which is volume to capacity. And when somebody looks at it and reads the data, it's very simple, very straightforward. It does not take people to be engineers or what have you to understand it. A lot of people do understand it, and they can have plenty of time now to look through that and read it.
Okay.
So I think if I can do am I rebutting, or am I just in the 2 minutes?
You have 1 minute to rebut that.
Okay, so I'm going to read it fast. This is what the initiative says. The sample ballot materials mailed to the registered voter of Costa Mesa prior to an election shall describe any major changes in allowable land use in a manner that clearly discloses both the scope and the main features of the proposed, including any and all phases the major change allowable in the use consists of or depends on, and the location of the acreage in the project site. I'll get farther into it. The description shall clearly compare the proposal and the traffic impacts both in the as-built condition, the existing applicable land use designation, and zoning. Classifications providing accurate comparative data concerning existing as well as proposed density in per units and intensity in square footage types and traffic. Insight specific.
30 seconds.
Here's where it gets down to it. We're talking about a 50, 100-page packet you're sending out to every voter. That's what they're saying here. Easily readable maps. This is beyond something simple for people to make a decision.
Okay. I think Jim's up now. So, Jim, when do the people vote? And I'm going to make it a multi, because it's kind of a yes or no question, but what is it going to cost the city to vote? And three, does this delay the building process at all?
Okay, let's say you went all the way through the process and some developer decides they want to develop on their property. It's probably a person that already owns the property because no one's going to come here to buy anything. So the process would go through the total environmental process you have to do in the city. If it's a large project, it's going to be a full EIR. That's going to take 12 to 14 months to do that. Get in front of the Planning Commission, get in front of the City Council. You may be at 15, 16 months if everything goes smoothly. After that, you go into the next election. So now you sit there and wait until the next election. That's why if you don't already own the property, you're not going to buy it or tie it up thinking that literally 2.5 or 3 years later make a decision. One of the reasons this thing's probably going to lose in court if it passes is because there's the Streamlining Act for subdivisions. And once a project is approved, the person has 24 months to get it under construction, approved by the City Council, not by some vote the City of Costa Mesa decided to do. So now you're going to chew up 12, 24 months. You could be 24 months away from an election. You could be 15 months away, 14. What they do say is if you want, the developer can spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars, the property can spend that, to have a special election, where I guarantee you they just lose. Because it's a special election. The people that show up are the people that are against it. That's what happens in those kinds of elections, and nobody's going to go ahead and do that. This initiative is so draconian is the reason why the courts are going to go ahead and throw this thing out. This initiative says from the day they started collecting signatures, every project has to get a vote of the people. From the day they started collecting signatures. Okay, that sounds great, but there's not a court in the land that's going to agree to that. Thank you.
You know, it's all well and good when you're talking about a project that might trigger this, but not every project is going to trigger it. And, you know, there's an awful lot of developers that are more than happy to live within the current general plan. The current general plan, as it stands right now, the current general plan is going to allow a substantial amount of increase in development. It's going to allow about 25% more traffic in the community. It's going to be able to be giving projects appropriate levels of development size so that they actually fit with the city and wind up by being actually well-planned, well-designed. In fact, one of the projects that is just being approved, the hotel, City of the Arts over in the metro area, that project, it was said right at council that our people were able to find a way to keep this inside the general plan process, actually the specific plan processing, so that in fact it would not require a vote of the people. And that's a 15-story hotel that has been approved by in process and has been approved and will not have a vote. 15 stories with a 7-story parking lot. So let's don't talk that every project is going to come in to require a vote, because it's not. There are a lot of projects that can live within the general plan because they've already got the allowance totally complete.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought up that hotel. That hotel is only happening because we got it under the wire. That hotel would absolutely have to go to a vote of the people. You know why? They have a thing in here called as-built. As-built. So what that hotel did was they said, we're going to have a hotel here, and we want to add some condominiums to it. It had a certain amount of traffic for those condominiums. And then they decided they didn't want to go ahead and do the condominiums. They'd rather do a hotel, which gives us TOT tax and it's pretty good for the city. Here was the problem. You couldn't count the trips that were approved for the growth of the condo project. You couldn't count those because you didn't build them. It's as built. That's exactly what this says here. So we had to figure out a way to get it through the process, and staff did a good job. We had already closed off the general plan to add to it. We opened it back up for this project. Why? Because there was no additional traffic and a traffic study wasn't needed. But absolutely, that hotel, if it went after the election and this thing had passed, would need a vote of the people to add a 15-story hotel that, based on what was already approved for, wouldn't have added one more trip.
Okay.
Well,
Starting to get confusing now, that's for sure.
well,
Vote on this stuff. I mean,
Jay, whose turn?
I have
think you have a 1-minute rebuttal. Okay, go ahead. I thought that was Jim's
you know,
1-minute rebuttal.
everybody has an opinion about these matters, but the reality is that here is a process that happened that actually got this hotel within the specific plan, maintained it inside the specific plan, so that in fact it would not violate the already existing structures and what have you in that. There are structures, there were floor areas, there were a whole bunch of parts of the project that existed. Once those were part of it, you had to add above and beyond that. And this project, because it stayed within the specific plan, there's no specific plan change, it in fact went ahead and would not require a vote.
Okay.
Jay, I love you, but you're just 1,000% wrong on that. I worked on this thing for the last 45 days to get it through staff to figure out how we could do it so it wouldn't have to go to a vote. The project was approved for an additional condominium project, which gave it additional trips, but it wasn't built. They decided to change it. It was not as built. Your thing says you can only count. So if you add more than 200 trips, what this project clearly did, you couldn't have it. So I'll bet you a cup of coffee on it. We'll have, one of the staffers do it. But the reason we got it done and got it rushed through was because it didn't have any trip change. So therefore, in doing our general plan, we're putting in the general plan to get it done. If it went on its own right now, it would go past that date and we need a vote of the people.
Jay, I've got another question for you here. What specific partial or building project have we done in the last, say, 6 years that you would not like to have done, that you would have liked to seen go to the public and eliminated? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, why are we doing this? There must be a reason, there must be some projects out there that we don't like.
Again, we are assuming that if it goes to a vote of the people, it's a done deal. It's failed. It's just not going to happen. And again, I come back with, I trust the public to actually be sensical and make sound decisions. A perfect example of one of the projects that may be something that could have been voted on in some places, Triangle Square. The way it was built, it actually creates a funnel effect where you, in fact, have a lot of difficulty in trying to widen Newport Boulevard, take care of all that through transit traffic that makes that issue a problem. Don't mind me. Makes it a problem transportation corridor with 3 intersections having real problems.
Why wasn't that, why didn't the Planning Commission and the City Council that was there when that triangle was built, and that had to be more than 6 years ago.
It was.
Why wasn't that picked up at that time? Why didn't they pick that up?
Again, when you make decisions to do certain projects, everybody leaves things out or doesn't leave things out if they make a mistake to that. But the reality is that at that time there was development processes that were going on that were pushing these kind of things forward. Secondarily, it was a redevelopment project done on a redevelopment program for the downtown part of Costa Mesa to make it more, to actually improve downtown Costa Mesa at that time, because that's what it was called.
Okay, Jim?
With regards to the triangle, I mean, that project had a lot of issues all the way around. What people understand is hard decisions are made. People forget what that area was like. They forget about the stripper bars and all those kind of things that were down there. And there's some people to this day say it was the worst thing that ever happened. Some people think it was the greatest thing that ever happened in the city. It's probably somewhere in the middle. But it didn't go to a vote of the people, because if it had gone to a vote of the people, it just wouldn't have happened. People, let's face it, change is something that people have issues with. We talked about the one project, level 1, that's over on Newport Boulevard and 15th there. That project was a boatyard, an actual boatyard. There was also a trailer park, and I don't mean grandma trailer park. I mean a trailer park that had some really nice people in there and druggies and methamphetamine people. That property was valued on the tax rolls at about $3.5 million, and $35,000 worth of revenue came into the schools, the city, the county, and everything. That now has 60 townhomes, which you may or may not like, but they sold for over $800,000, and people bought those. That now brings in over $48 million, $480,000 of taxes. It's $480 million of the value, $480,000. So before, for the school districts, for the county, for everything, $35,000 was brought in by that 3.5 acres. Now it's $480,000. A third of it goes to our schools. No one's, first of all, going to bring it to a vote of the people. They're not interested in a vote of the people. But those things are so complicated, and people look at them, I don't want to make a change, and that's understandable. People don't want changes. That's why you have to have leadership of your community to move some of these things through.
Okay, Jay, 1 minute.
Well, when you look at these kind of projects, they are not so hard to deal with. And keep in mind that the property value they get, as long as they stayed within the general plan, which that project did stay within the existing overlay zone, it was processed, and it would not have become a vote of the people. So we can argue all the way. I could have built, I don't know, Eiffel Tower there, and it would have, in fact, probably been such a large project that it would have triggered something. But that's not what happened. What did happen, it was housing, and those monies come right to the city through all those processes. But what is really important is that when we get to vote on the future of our city, we wind up by having control of the actual way we look at. This is not an issue about,
Finish your sentence. Finish your sentence.
this is not an issue about whether or not we'll stop development. This is an issue about the character of our community. This is an issue about us having control over where our community is going to go. And if we were a wide open community, then that'd be different. But this is a different issue. We're a built out community. We are not a wide open community.
Okay. Jim, I'm going to start with a question we got from the audience here that probably is on the minds of everybody. Would this initiative have a significant effect on the city's growing traffic problem? And would it, what do you see as the traffic problem in our city?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think we have to look at the traffic that we have in the city and look at actual facts. So if you say to people, do we have more traffic now than we had 20 or 30 years ago, the public would all nod their head. And traffic in this initiative is based on intersections. So if an intersection can get you through when you stop easily, then it's an A intersection or a B intersection or a D or an E or an F. The D, E, and F means you flunk. Here's the interesting point. In 1990, our city had, in the AM, had 5 intersections that were Ds. In the PM, it had 7 intersections that were Ds and 5 that were Es. In 2000, the city had 2 intersections that were D in the AM, 3 intersections that were E or F in the PM, in the AM, and it had in the PM it had 13 intersections that were D and 2 that were E. Now, with the councils, what they've been doing is fixing the roads, putting left and right turn lanes in and double it up. Here's our traffic problem. In the AM, we have 1 intersection that's a D, not 13, 1. We have 2 intersections in the PM, that's a D. We have 1 intersection, that's an E. What's the worst intersection in the community? Highland and MacArthur, up there by going into Fountain Valley. That's the worst intersection. The most traffic is not the issue. It's how many cars can you put through that intersection that makes the difference. The most traffic is over on Anton and over there by South Coast Plaza. You put 5 lanes in there, you put double left-hand lanes, you move traffic through it. So a bad intersection is the issue. The worst intersection is at Segerstrom and Highland.
Jay, you have 2 minutes to talk about traffic.
Well, this current general plan actually has 21 intersections that go to D, and you need to keep always in mind that D is 1 step from failure. Failure is when it's no longer getting through that intersection effectively. So you have to keep that in mind. Secondarily, if you look at the projects that have been done, where they funnel that traffic can lead to significant problems. Some of that stuff will always happen, but when you have large projects and you generate lots of extra traffic, those projects wind up by creating problems. Somewhere along the line, you're going to see Harbor Boulevard under this new general plan. You see Harbor Boulevard and Newport Boulevard with 4- and 5-story buildings all along it. And those 4- and 5-story buildings are going to be apartments, long, very dense apartments, and we're going to be tunneling down the street. Where are all those cars going to go? Because a lot of cars are going to come out of there, and they're not going to have any way to go other than back in the neighborhoods behind them, or onto Harbor or onto Newport. And when that happens, they will only be able to go the way they've got, because both those streets have some dividers in them. So you're going to be creating settings where people are going to be making U-turns and what have you, further congesting the streets. So this is a process that we can look at and say, geez, do we want to put up with the impacts that these projects, both in a cumulative format and a single format, will create for our city? How much do we want to put up with? What is the character of Costa Mesa to us? I don't know about you guys, but when I moved to Costa Mesa, I moved here because of the small town ambiance and the actual availability of big city available in services. What that really means is that we had things between us. Is that 30 or a minute?
You have another 15 seconds.
Okay. So all it means is that you have a city that we can live in with a high quality of life. Why reduce that high quality of life?
Okay, Jim, you have 1 minute to rebut.
And that's why you just heard the story of why they got the 6,000 signatures. This is what really bothers me. Everything he just told you, most of it was just untrue. There is no general plan that's going to go from 2 D intersections to 21. It doesn't exist. But we just kind of make that up based on some other numbers of where the plan's going to. Number 2, there is not a tunnel of projects going down Newport Boulevard or Harbor Boulevard. Yes, I agree. Where the motels are, we've allowed 4-story buildings to get rid of the motels. And I will trade to get rid of those motels every day of the year for a high-class apartment building. If I had my choice, I wouldn't care. Maybe I wouldn't want it. It isn't a green field. It's got pimps, prostitutes, methamphetamines, and everything else.
20
And since
seconds.
in 1996, we talked about these motels. Until this council came in, and we finally put one in the receivership. Everybody talks about what they want to do, and they want this nice little community. Folks, it's 2016. It's not 1980 anymore. Things are different. But our traffic, based on our numbers, are less than they were 20 years ago by a massive amount, not by a little amount.
Okay. Okay, now, everybody in the audience, take a deep breath. Okay? We're going to tone this down just a little bit. I was at the Finance Committee meeting today, and there's about 4 of us in the audience that were at that meeting, and I asked one of the guys to give me a question. So here's the question from the Finance Committee. With the ever-increasing demand from the voters, from the residents of Costa Mesa for more services, i.e. safety, we just gave our police a 9% raise on top of an 8% raise so that we could have more police officers. We have to compete with other cities for police officers. So we're paying our police officers more. We have city council members that continually have projects where they want to improve the city. They've had requests from you guys, and there's needs out there for improvements. So my question to Jim is, how are we going to pay for these ever-increasing projects, and will this initiative help us or hurt us?
Let's just kind of look at the basics of our city and how we started. There was Newport Beach and there was Santa Ana. They were both gobbling up the property in between, and the citizens decided they better make a city or they're going to get gobbled up by Newport Beach or Santa Ana. And before that, we were run by the county. So there's really been no planning in this city. Let's just be flat out honest. It was county property on, the whole area. We've got houses right next to industrial area on the west side. The east side was 10-acre farms and broken up into 5 acres and then broken up into houses. There hasn't been planning. On the east side, it's all stop signs going up and down. It's a horrible traffic pattern to handle the houses there. That's what we have. This is not some, general plan handed down from Moses, God to Moses, to decide how to do the city. But somehow, this plan that we have is this sacrosanct thing that can never be changed. This initiative says, without a vote of the people, you can only touch around the edges of it. So this was the greatest plan. We're in some planned community. Everything's fine. Things change over time. If you don't allow that change to happen, you do not change the tax base. The tax base in the city on the average house is $367,000. The average basis, tax basis, not what it's worth, tax basis. When it trades for $800,000 or $900,000, we get higher taxes. If properties don't trade or get redeveloped, that is the extra boost we get to pay the bills. You can complain about pensions all you want. We're responsible for them. We need to pay them. And if we don't go ahead and do things to add that additional income when property transfers over, we won't be able to pay for it. Go up the 710 freeway and you can see about cities that don't take care of and grow and do better and clean up and improve. If you don't improve, you won't get better. This is not a growth issue. Let's face it. We're already built out. This is an improvement issue.
Okay, Jay, let's talk about the needs of the city and how we need additional tax revenue. And will this help that? That was the question.
The commentary keeps coming back to every project in town is going to stop. Every build, every remodel, every redevelopment, everything that happens in the city is going to come to a stop. And that's simply not true. There's an awful lot of things in this city that will not be stopped. Look at all the overlay plans that this council was very strong about saying, we are not going to change the overlay zones. And that is converting an awful lot of housing into very expensive housing that, quite honestly, is out of the reach for many, many people. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that there is a lot of housing that's going to happen on the east side, on the west side, all around the town side. We are going to have plenty of projects. The only thing that is really going to be affected is when you actually change the rules. And so, consequently, those developers that want to come and make money will be able to do the projects that fit within the existing general plan that gives plenty of growth opportunity for everybody. So I keep trying to figure out how we're losing all this money. The truth is that when projects that have been done on the west side go and get sold and people buy them, we get that tax revenue, which builds the tax revenue. All kinds of projects will build the tax revenue. Bottom line is, I do not see all of these projects going away. In fact, a lot of developers will say, gee whiz, I've got a real solid place to go to make sure that I don't have to worry about a vote. I can go into these areas and actually build the things that help me make my living, et cetera.
Okay, Jim, you have 1 minute.
I'll give you a perfect example. Whittier College is going out of business. You know, surprise. 3 or 4 law schools in Orange County. We had like 0. Now we have 3 or 4 ABA-approved law schools. It's going out of business. They've got a 10 or 15-acre parcel. It did not get into the general plan. It's zoned for warehouse. Okay, and they got a special use permit to go ahead and put some of those classrooms in it, but that's basically what it is. So if you think that warehouse is the best thing for our community, fine. The developers looking at it are looking to do public storage in the back of the buildings. I will tell you, any community that you go to, when they start putting public storage down your main streets, you're going the wrong direction.
Okay.
Can I just answer that?
Sure, go ahead and say one more.
The bottom line is he's exactly right about Whittier. It's in an industrial zone. And so as such, the amount of square footage on that property right now is about 2/3 of what it can have. So they can expand that property to a full 3/3 of that amount, which is 50% more than what's on there already. So if somebody's going to put storage on there rather than improve that property to make it something other than that, there's no problem. But the reality is it's zoned for industrial center, industrial park, pardon me. So consequently, it's not just going to be built as a storage area. People have an opportunity to actually, within the general plan, have the option to increase that by 50%.
And I'll just touch on that very quickly. It is on Harbor Boulevard. It's on Harbor Boulevard. It's on a major street. It's next to SoCal.
Hey, wait.
And
Jim.
Go ahead.
Jim. Jay, I gave Jay an extra minute.
Hold it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Folks, I appreciate it.
I apologize.
Let's be honest. I asked for a special thing. He gave it to me. It's okay. I have no problem with him making a statement. It's okay. He gets his minute.
Just a quick comment here.
I mean, again, basically, it's industrial warehouse zone, which was great when you went from lima beans in 1965. It's Harbor Boulevard. Look at who's coming into those, that right across the way, Vans, about 1,000 jobs. They're also going to bring another corporate headquarters. The LA Times is bringing in corporate headquarters. They were industrial. We got them changed in the general plan. So this property did not get in. And so what we're saying is we're going to put up warehouses. Across the street, you've got, office buildings for good, high-paying jobs. You're not going to be wanting to put industrial buildings on Harbor Boulevard at the 405.
Jay, I think the next question goes to you. And the city of Huntington Beach, a couple of years ago, had a number high-rises go up near the ocean. They were small units, and the public just went crazy. And they didn't want these tall buildings with little rooms in them. And so they went to the election box and they got rid of the people that voted for those things, and they put in new people. Since we have elections every 2 years, and it happens in November we're going to have an election, why can't we use the election process to hire new city council members that have the desires of the people to limit the traffic, to limit the kind of growth we have here, and to remodel in a way that they like? Jim, you have 2 minutes.
Here, we give it to Jim first.
No, it's your turn, I think.
Well, the simplest answer is we can certainly use the ballot box in that issue. But what happens is the ballot box in that issue doesn't change the fundamental difference of us being able to control our own future relative to development. Sure, we can get rid of this council. We can get rid of pieces of councils. We can get rid of everybody. But over time, different people get elected and for different reasons, and you wind up by having a council that can make a lot of changes. Now, one of the things is, does anybody know how long it usually takes to recall somebody? It takes quite a long time, basically. You have to get a petition done, you have to get it on the ballot and everything else. So that's one way you can get rid of people. The other way is just get them out during the next vote. And that does happen. And in fact, it could happen this coming vote. The reality is there are a lot of ways to change that. Unfortunately, the amount of things that somebody can, in fact, get enacted over a period of time, and while they're waiting for that to get them out of the office, is quite simply problematic. It will lead to more and more problems that you still can't fix. And when you have the impacts of those projects, you will, in fact, find that you're facing a lot of problems associated with their voting choice up till the time they've been removed from office.
Okay. Jim,
minutes?
I'd like to add one thing.
Okay.
If a project comes to the city council and it meets all the zoning requirements, can you guys not vote against having that project?
Can I have time for that, answer the question
Yeah.
too, and that's
Yeah.
separate? I mean, you can, you do have discretion to have findings, and the findings can be pretty loose. So you can find reasons why not to approve a project that some would argue that it fits everything. But if it has any kind of mass or scale to it at all, you're going to be able to find something environmental document to stop it. If I could just answer back to the question there, I am looking for what is that major project that's been approved in the last, I've been the council for 5-6 years now, approved in the last 6 years that it's worth dividing this community over. What project was so horrible that we're here for a vote? I mean, they did it back in 1988. What project is everybody up in arms with? Because the reality of it is what I hear is scare tactics constantly given to people. I mean, when people, and this is what bothered me the most of this whole initiative process, when people would go into neighborhoods with flyers that said, people up in the north part of the city who live up in the state streets, did you know that Moon Park, with 3 votes of the city council, can be turned into a high-rise project, high-density project? And it was handed out to people. Sign here. It's a public park. It was dedicated as a park by the land developer. There was no chance it could ever happen or change. I mean, an act of Congress couldn't get it done. But that's what's told to people. It's fear and doubt. And that's the biggest problem I have with that. If it was the project. In Huntington Beach, Drive at Ellis and Beach Boulevard. It was 100 units per acre, and it was built on the sidewalk. That was a rallying cry to Huntington Beach to say, are you kidding me? 100 units per acre built on the sidewalk. Where is that here? What have we done so wrong? I think this commission and council has listened to the public.
Okay, Jay, 1 minute.
Well, very briefly, it's interesting that he says that because this council actually was involved in turning the Civic Center Park maybe over to affordable housing for homeless folks, and that's that park right there by the City Hall. They also were also involved in changing Tewinkle Park to a for-profit organization Major League Dreams. And they were going to have beer and parking costs and what have you. And had a citizen in our community not gone and found the deed that said, gee whiz, if you, in fact, use this park in a commercial format, we'll take it back by the Interior Department. Consequently, what that said is that potentially for making one part of that park commercial, potentially the entire park went away, was taken back by the federal government. So whether we can or can't change a park, whether we can or can't change a park.
No, I'm sorry, it went over a little bit. But finish your sentence.
Whether or not we can or can't change a park is irrelevant. The truth is that a vote of 3 people on the council can, in fact, change the status of a park.
Okay,
And this is a new question, right?
that was his
Yeah, it's
1
a
minute
one.
rebuttal. That was the one.
Yeah,
That was the rebuttal.
okay.
You only had 2 minutes on that one. Everybody's anxious to get their questions up here. I'm getting some good questions, and these guys are anxious to get the answers out. I had 2 on cost of the initiative being challenged in court. Will the city have to defend this ordinance in court? What should we expect the budget for this? How much does it cost to defend a lawsuit like that, et cetera, et cetera? So,
Well, again, we're making an assumption that this is going to get sued. It was put together with land use attorney involved with it, and it has been pulled from different ordinances, different petitions, initiatives that have withstood legal challenge. So I'm not really worried about that. But let's think about this. This is our city. This is where we live. This is where we have to drive around. And is it worth it to defend something that may help that? So you've got to make a decision in your own mind. Is it worth it to do that more so than frivolous lawsuits or problems lawsuits that do not protect your quality of life and your city? Down the future, there's nothing saying you shouldn't be able to grow, and this initiative does not in any way, shape, or form stop any development that happens within the general plan or within zoning, and at the same time allows us to grow this city effectively with good planning, with good thought to allow for the best outcome for the Costa Mesa that we know, as opposed to some different Costa Mesa that is on the general plan.
Well, a couple of things. Let me finish up on the last point. This council never voted to take a park and turn it into affordable housing. It went through the process. People asked for affordable housing. They looked at this property the city owned, and it was brought forward, and it died. It didn't pass. With regards to T-Winkle, I think history is being redone. T-Winkle was, people had looked during the recession of how do we operate our parks. They're getting very, very expensive to operate. And it was looked at, a private operator like a Big League Dreams, one of those, to look at T-Winkle. One of the things they do is they serve alcohol. The reason the issue never moved forward had nothing to do with the deed. The deeds get changed constantly. You go to the Interior Department, and your congressman, you change it. T-Winkle Park, there's a freeway going over property. That was T-Winkle Park that had to be given up on that. Up and down Harbor Boulevard, that was federal property handed over to businesses. The restrictions are gone all the time. The issue was it was next to a school, and you couldn't have liquor next to a school. The issue was dead immediately like there. So maybe that's no, but I was on the council. What is this going to cost? Millions and millions of dollars it's going to cost the city because the city's required to defend this initiative. And if you don't think property owners are going to say, wait, from the time you started collecting signatures, every decision that the city council made that has already been locked in place, we can't do? Good luck on that one. There's not a judge around that's going to allow that to happen. And that's going to cost, God knows how many millions of dollars out there. Listen, tell me the project again, because none of those projects happen. Tell me the project that is worth changing the way we've been doing things in this city for 60 years. We have elections. People look at things. Is it different some councils than others? In the last 20 years, I don't think there was a time that there hasn't been every 2 years the balance of power on the council could change almost every single time, by 2 votes or by 3 votes. Thank you.
Well, I can think of a couple of projects, very large 4 to 5 story buildings. And oh, by the way, This council has been giving density bonuses at a lot of projects. So when they say it's a 40 unit per acre project, it's actually 50-something of the last 4 projects have been done, 33 projects have been done. They've all been over 50 units per acre. So what that does is that changes the dynamics, and now it's not a 4-story building with a 5-story parking lot. It is a 5-story building with a 6-story parking lot. And we keep going up higher and higher and higher. Somewhere along the line, density bonuses will be given to people, and we will find those problems. This council is under suit right now for giving a density bonus to a project, the Costa Mesa Motor Inn, and in fact,
Okay, new question. This came from the audience. How many, and it goes to Jim. Jim gets 2 minutes. How many projects have been improved versus turned down? No balance. 17th and Pomona would be one that the people wouldn't approve. Jim, can you address this?
How many projects have been?
Yeah, are all the projects that come to the city council approved, or half of them turned down?
You know what, that's a great question. Most of the projects, by the time it gets to the city council, are closer towards approval because the staff and, quite frankly, the council members have already weighed in, or the planning commission has weighed in. So by the time the things get to us, we're pretty clear about what can or cannot happen. We have a lot of projects right now north of the 405 that want to turn in the best jobs area that we have, those large parcels of property. They all want to do high-density apartments or high-density condos. We've said absolutely not. We're not going to bring that kind of traffic in, chop up those large parcels of land over there that are basically set up for jobs, for high-paying jobs. Vans is coming in with, by the time it's done, about 1,000 employees. There's not a warehouse in sight in that building, folks. That's all designers, advertising people, marketers. They have currency transaction people. It's a $3 billion a year company. Those are all high-paying jobs that'll happen there. And that's the kind of things that we want to have happen north of the 405. We don't want to put new warehouses in there. We don't want to put housing in there. We want to make sure that we have the good place for good jobs to come into our community.
Okay, very good. Jay, you have 2 minutes.
well, you're absolutely right. I would not want to have housing up on the north side of the freeway either, for a variety of reasons. Traffic, the impacts of people living inside an industrial community. Huh?
West of Fairview. I didn't say that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're right, west of Fairview. Well, I agree with that process. But we have to look at, and let's talk about Whittier School, because Whittier Law School, as I understand it, is actually leasing back the property after they sold it until it gets moved on. And it doesn't look like a storage area to me right now, and I don't know that it's ever going to, because they can now, actually within the project, they can develop it to another 50% and stay within the rules of the general plan. No vote, nothing to change that. But let's go back to the 17th and Pomona. And 17th and Pomona is 177 housing units that at one time was originally going to come forward to the county, and it got passed. And it should have gotten passed because, gee whiz, they're going to clean up that whole property and everything. Would never have come to a vote because it does not trigger the first step, which is change the general plan setting. It comes already set under the plan. The overlay zone plan.
He's correct. The overlay zone will stay in effect. Just back to Whittier College. It was bought by a company that's called Magellan. It was Magellan Storage. That's who's bought the property. They're going to use it for storage. I've met with the people. It's not my first choice. They want to know if there's any changes on it. I said, if the initiative passes, that's what you can do, and that's why a storage company offered to buy that property. And I think the number was about $9 or $10 million less than what other people wanted to do on the property. Now, what they want to do on the property, if it was housing, we told them absolutely not. So who knows what would happen. I would have preferred high-end jobs, and that's the kind of stuff that people in Orange County can attract, is high-paying jobs.
Okay. What I'd like to do now, because it is getting late and some of us are ready to go home, is I've got some good questions here, and I'd just like to throw them out, and whoever wants to answer them can answer them, or we can go back and forth. Jay, how would you like to handle that?
What do you want to
Well, why don't you take the first one, and then we'll just go back and forth.
1 minute or 2 minutes?
Or how about 30 seconds?
Lightning round.
Lightning round.
How does this initiative, I think they mean, actually have an exception for affordable housing? Or does this initiative have actually an exception for?
Yeah, in all truth, I don't think the people who wrote the initiative wanted to stop affordable housing. I don't think they were looking at that. And so they did is they said that any affordable housing that's federally or state mandated would be exempt from this initiative. The problem is that we don't have federally or state mandated housing projects in Costa Mesa. We don't need any more units for additional housing. The RENA numbers say we only need 2 units more of affordable housing compared to like Irvine needs 13,000. So I don't think they meant to do that. But again, when they talk about all the different pieces that were put together, it's like a Frankenstein initiative from all these different cities. One of the things they put in was that exempt were federally and state mandated affordable units. There's no such thing as a federally mandated affordable units. Therefore, any project that's affordable units would have to go to the vote of the people if it triggered these issues.
Jay, do you want to comment on that? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
The reality is the state does have mandates. It's called density bonus rules. And when you, in fact, give density bonus to projects of certain sizes, you are required, especially in housing, to, if you give them density bonus, to have a part of that become affordable housing. So if you look at that as a state mandate, because when you give the density bonus, you now have to do that. If you don't give a density bonus, you may in fact find that these projects do just fine inside the general plan. But if you have to change it to, in fact, allow additional housing, more density, and more height and more dynamics, you will in fact find that that will be triggered. The density bonus will now trigger and require affordable housing.
Okay. Jay, here's one for you. How can we change the way the Planning Commission is appointed? Currently, 3-person majority has complete control over individuals on the Planning Commission.
This is just a completely off-the-wall question. So I don't know that we have to change it. I think the best way to do it is have each council member appoint a planning commissioner. And that way you have, at least you aren't playing a game where you play who's voting for what and how you override the vote. If we look at the last time we had planning commissioners appointed, it became 3 votes that kept on making who was going to be the planning commissioner. So my belief is that the easiest answer, if you're not going to use a power play, is to have each council member appoint whoever they think would be a good planning commissioner, and go from there.
Jim, you have a 2-second comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, those are the 2 arguments for it. One of the arguments is to go ahead and have everybody appoint and each person, and you can do that. The problem to that side, people would argue, is that that person's beholden to that elected official. And so they can remove them anytime they don't want the votes. When you vote everybody on and give them their 2 or 4-year term, you need 3 votes of the council to get somebody off. So, and you can argue it both ways. I've seen both ways. I could do it either way. I quite frankly think that you should have the majority on the council, or all the council people pick people, and most of the times it's a unanimous vote that we end up with, and sometimes it's not. But let's be really clear about it. If the community elects the council, and you're electing people on the ideas that they're based on doing, and people are policy. And so when you put somebody into a job, you want them to make sure that the people on that lower board are not just, oh, we'll decide whatever to do, that are there based on the policies that the people that were elected put you in office for.
Jay, this is the one that I asked you in the kitchen when you came by to have me sign the initiative. Why do we think the public, who can't understand the details of the bill, can much better make a decision on a construction project? And I kind of said, if there's 4 construction projects, I don't want to learn about them. I want my representative to learn about them.
Well, if you are getting everything you want and you're getting exactly the kind of thoughtful decision making, but we have been controlled by the developing community now, the developer community now, for a number of years. And you can see that in the kind of developments going on in the city. It's quite simple. If you think that your city is actually doing everything right, then you're going to sit back and kind of be quiet about it. But the public is a much smarter animal than us as individuals are. And so it's really important that we think about how the public can process in this. The truth is the public will be given the information that is not out of the realm of their understanding, and they'll be able to make a decisive vote on those things that are going to affect their quality of life, their impacts that come from those that are going to change how those people live their life within this community. So it's a bottom line, do you want to have those changes affect you directly? And when that does, if it's already built, it's happened.
So again, I think it's nice when you're running for office to say, you know, the public, they understand everything, it's great, they're going to make the best decision. And in certain things, they do. But planning commissions weren't put together because the best way to do something was for everybody to vote on it, the public to vote on it. So let's look at the issue that everybody understands completely. Would increase the VC ratio to equal or greater than .400, such as the implementation of the major change of the LOS would be C or worse. Would the increase of the VC ratio increase the... You hear what I'm saying here, folks? Read the document. And we're going to say the public's going to read this and understand the document out there. I'm not saying the public's not bright. I'm not saying on the big pictures they don't understand it. But to just sit there and do this kumbaya, everybody's happy, hold hands, and we're going to decide on major technical issues in the city, I wouldn't. I don't go to, you know, my neighbor to ask about my appendix. I go to my doctor. I don't go to somebody else to ask about my accounting. I ask an accountant. The point of it is I'm not knocking it that people may or not want something. That's called the election. Every 2 years, if it doesn't work out or you like it, get rid of it. And I've yet to heard the project that this whole room or anybody's all upset about that got approved. I still don't know what that project is. It hasn't happened.
Well, actually, it has happened. Actually, it has. The Costa Mesa Motor Inn, which everybody wants to get rid of the whores, pimps, and druggies, and that's the super answer. By golly, we can't do anything other than give a slumlord multi-million dollars in profit by keeping that project at what he got, 54 dwelling units per acre. And that's what made it okay for him. Keep in mind, the same property owner keeps ownership of that property, which means the base land tax does not go up. He keeps under Prop 13, it doesn't go up. And in fact, the buildings will increase the property tax, but nowhere near what people consider is going to happen. But there's a project that would be worth voting on to make sure that the impacts of the traffic coming out of that impact, which way does everybody go when they come out of that project right now? The hotel, they have to go south. They have to turn and go south. And there's an intersection right below that. So all the people coming out of the apartments are going to make the intersection by jumping across 3 or 4 lanes of traffic and getting in, make their U-turn. So consequently, all those people that want to go north are going to be creating traffic hazards in that side. Just keep in mind, all those things are things that are important to look at when we look at these projects. The community will be given information not in the hyper-technical format and jargon. It'll be given information that they can understand and then make the choice. So that's what would happen in that project. And that project has only looked at one answer, and all the answers seem to be the same.
That project, I think, is 54 units per acre. That thing has more calls for service than other property we have. We have stabbings. We have all sorts of issues there. I will vote every day of the year to get rid of a motel with 54 units to the acre if that's what it takes. Because the reality of it is nothing's ever changed. Don't do anything. Don't roil anybody up. Don't make anybody upset. We looked at what would happen. When the motel, we were looking at what to do on Newport Boulevard, it's commercial. They said rezone them to 20 units per acre so we can get rid of these motels. No different than we did. But not one got done because it wasn't worthwhile to tear down at 20 units per acre. If it was worthwhile to tear down 20 units per acre, I'd be fine with that. If it's at 40 units per acre, I'll be fine with that. It was about 54 units per acre where it made sense for the property owner to do it. And the property owner is going to spend $60 million in construction to build what I call a cruise ship apartment complex. It's got, rock climbing walls and cabana pools. I'll take that trade every single day. Again, if it was a green field, nothing there, no. But to get rid of something, I will do it. This initiative would say, go to a vote of the people. By the way, I think it had 239 units as apartments. It's going to have 234. It's have less units as an apartment than it did as a motel.
Okay, I'd like, let's give these guys a round of applause right now. I think they've done an excellent job. Jay or Jim, one of you guys start off. You got 1 minute just to wrap it up, and then we can all go home.
You always fight for last. Listen, I think it's important that the fact that the community shows up and is concerned about this is very important. I am concerned about the fact that I think a lot of fear and doubt's been put in people's minds, that all these horrible things can happen, that with 3 votes of the city council, the world could end. And the reality of it is, as much as some people look at the city council to say, oh my gosh, they just want to build on everything, we really haven't. What we've done is we've approved some pretty good projects. We've taken some controversial projects to get rid of motels that are major sources of problems in our community. And so it's not always easy, and some people have problems with that, and I understand that. But I live in this community with a wife and 3 kids, and I got a business. I want the community to be safe. I want it to be a good community. I care about the same things Jay cares about. I like Jay. Jay and I get along fine. But we have different ideas of how it works. I don't want to change what we've been doing for 60 years in the city, a process that would totally stop. It would take another vote of the people to change it, to change how we do our system. Thank you very much.
I have to agree. My first care is for Costa Mesa. But let's look at high-density development, and let's look at the impacts of high-density developments. We talked about a motel that had the most service calls by our police and fire department. We're aware that right up there with it was a high-density apartment complex. High-density apartment complex. So what you have to look at is, are you trading a problem for a future problem? What happens if all that doesn't stay what it is? You have to look at what those impacts are going to be on the community and make a choice. And the only way we can make a choice is to actually have the people have a vote on those issues of large developments that change things. Keep in mind, and it's very important to keep in mind, that the character of this community is important. We have now been we're now going to be changing the largest land residential impact change since 2006 that is going to be in this new general plan. And those changes are going to, in fact, affect us. Affect us not one at a time, but affect us very rapidly. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's give these guys a big hand. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
How did you feel the debates went tonight?
Well, I thought it was actually quite balanced. I was wondering if we'd have a contentious crowd, and I was pleased that everybody seemed to settle in and listen to the answers. I thought both gentlemen did a good job.
Do you feel that we had a clear winner?
Actually, well, I obviously am more in line with the position of the Mayor Pro Tem, and I felt that he well explained our position, but I think that Jay held his own as well.
I thought, all in all, I would give him very high ranking. There was, at the end, of audience disturbance that sort of bothered me. It was like a city council meeting revisited, so I thought it got a little rude from one side of the audience. But as far as the debate, seeing the 2 participants, the respect they had for each other and the friendship they had, and not getting personal, I thought we got a lot of good information out of it. So it went very well. I'm glad I attended.
I thought it was great. I thought it was good to listen to Jay and Jim. They both have contrasting opinions. It's always good to see civic debate.
Do you feel there was a clear winner?
Well, of course. I mean, the reality is Jim kind of framed the issues the way that they are, and an initiative, an anti-growth initiative like this, clearly is not in the best interest of the public, and I think Jim made his points very well.
How do you feel it went tonight?
I think it went well. I think this going back and forth is better way to do it, to be able to do a question and then rebut the question out there, because this is really technical stuff. And I think when you get into the technical issues, people really understand what they're voting on. And I think that speaks better for people that say, maybe we shouldn't vote for this initiative.
Is there anything that you want the voters to know that was not covered tonight?
I just think that the process that we have in the city right now, the question I asked them many times over, what is the one project that everybody's all upset about? And what it was is projects came forward that the council all voted no on, but they said, oh, you could have done this, but we didn't. We listened to the public, we made sure the things fit into the rules that we have, we didn't vote for it. So again, when I asked the question, what's the project that everybody's all upset about that got voted in, it was several projects that we voted down. And so I think the public has to understand that there's not a big one rallying cry of why we need to go ahead and change 60 years of process.
I think it was really healthy. I enjoyed it. I think that it's a very complex issue, just like many other things in city government right now. I think there's both sides. I support the initiative. I carried the petition and asked my neighbors to sign it. I want to see it on the ballot in November and let the citizens decide.
Do you feel there was a clear winner tonight?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that. I think Jay did very well in simplifying a very complex issue. But I think everybody in here is very intelligent, and they're going to have to make up their own minds.
I think it was a good thing, and I'm actually really glad that it was televised. A lot of people are coming door to door, and that's the only way the voters right now are getting a chance to learn about this. And the fact that now it's televised and people will actually get to see both sides is a great thing. I think transparency is very important, and you really helped tonight. I think the issue that will be on everybody's mind is how much is this thing going to cost, and how much will it cost in the future. And I think they really started to get to that tonight, and hopefully people will now be able to go back with their questions and look into what the initiative says more. And I'm very proud that I was able to be here and that we had this discussion tonight.
Do you feel there was a clear winner?
I do, but although I have my winner, I think everybody who came here tonight probably felt whoever they supported prior, they support that same person.
I thought it was pretty exciting. Yeah, I liked it, and I thought both sides made some really good points.
Do you think there was a clear winner?
Well, I'm on one side of this, so I think Jim won. I think Jay did an admirable job of defending what he stands for there, and Jay's a very fair guy, and I have a lot of confidence in him as well as Jim. But I think this town has needed development to bring in more young people, and that's what it's all about.
How do you feel the debates went tonight?
I think it was excellent. I really do. I think there was a lot of information that the public got, and I was really impressed with the people staying as long as they did, and they were involved. So I think, it was a good, excellent meeting.
Do you think there was a clear winner?
No, I think it's a difficult subject. I think there's a lot of good reasons for both sides, and I think it's good that we have this debate, but I don't think there was a winner tonight.
Do you think the moderator did a good job?
I know the moderator did a good job.
Well, I think that like any debate, it's in the beholders. So however they felt is what really matters. There's 1,000 ways to go in a lot of different areas, and it's important to be able to deal with all those places. The time limitations that were by my choice did not allow some things to come out. That's all. And nothing major.
Is there anything you'd like the voters to know that was not covered tonight?
Well, I think that the problem is that there needs to be checks and balances for the people of Costa Mesa, for any community. And the initiative gives them that checks and balances to make sure that the impacts and the benefits are actually come to a balance in the planning process. Consequently, it's one of those choices that people can make that allow the city to make choices and then have the community itself certify that. Let's face it, it's real simple. If everybody works together, you wind up with great projects. If in fact things are pushed down your throat, you don't necessarily get great projects. So this is an opportunity and a way for the city to work together.